Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This video was made for entertainment purposes and is transformative in nature.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning. We begin this half hour with our exclusive interview with two of the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case and their attorney, Kevin Glogauer. Taylor was shot and killed in her home during a police raid back in March. One of the officers at the scene, Brett Hankinson, was fired and charged with wanton endangerment for shooting at the apartment next door. No one was hurt there. But no officers have been charged for Taylor's death, and at least one of the officers involved has defended their actions. The jurors told us authorities never presented them with the option to consider indicting officers on more serious charges for Taylor's death, which left them feeling frustrated, disgusted, and even betrayed. Now, we're not revealing their identities at their request for their safety.
They didn't give us the charges up front when they gave us all of that testimony over 20-something hours, and then to say that these are the only charges that they're coming up with. It's like, well, what did we just sit through? And then to be told that we're not charging them with anything else, to me, it was a betrayal.
So when you all looked, Juror 1 and 2, and you're told that the only thing you need to consider right now is wanton endangerment, did anyone say, hey, are there any other options here? Did either of you say that?
Almost the entire room.
What was the answer that you were given?
Basically, in a nutshell, they said there were other possible charges that we considered, but nothing that we could make stick.
They never gave us the opportunity to deliberate on anything but the charges for Hankinson. That was it. As a matter of fact, when they announced that those were the only charges, it was an uproar in that room. There was several more charges that could have gone forward on all of those officers, or at least the 3 shooters.
Why is this so extraordinary, Kevin?
Normally, the grand jurors are presented with the law and the charges so that they can listen to the facts with an open mind and apply those facts to the law, almost as a roadmap.
What happened here?
What happened here was it was done in the complete reverse.
What stands out to you the most?
From a legal perspective, it looked like they weren't following the grand jurors, and they only wanted the grand jurors to follow them, which is contrary to the actual rule.
Grand juror number 1 and number 2 say what prompted them to ultimately speak out was that press conference held by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, which they insist falsely represented their position on potential indictments for the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death.
While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges are not applicable to the facts before us because our investigation showed, and the grand jury agreed, that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in the return of deadly fire.
When he stated that there were 6 possible murder charges and that the grand jury had agreed that those didn't apply, the first time I heard the word 6 possible murder charges was in that news conference.
It wasn't presented to you in the grand jury deliberations?
No. And personally, when I do something, I take responsibility for it. We had not done that.
I really felt that this was all Cameron. This was up to him. We didn't get a choice in that at all. So I was livid. By the time I heard what he was saying, everything that came out of his mouth, I was saying liar, because we didn't agree to anything. We never met Cameron.
You've never met Attorney General Cameron?
No, we never met him. He never discussed anything with us.
I think many people will be very surprised to hear that they had no contact with Attorney General Cameron whatsoever.
I agree. If you watch the press conference, it seemed clear from the wording that Mr. Cameron was implying that he played a larger role in the actual presentation.
Is that normally how it works?
Well, the Attorney General in Kentucky doesn't normally present cases to the grand jury. But I think to answer your question, Gail, generally the highest person in the office would at least come introduce themselves to the grand jurors.
Do either of you think there was enough evidence to present charges of murder, attempted murder, manslaughter?
Yes, I think there was. Yeah, I mean, just all of the evidence there. As we were listening to it, we were sure this was leading up to something like that.
Among the evidence the grand jury heard from the night of the raid was a 911 call from Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. He says he fired a warning shot at who he thought were intruders. Officers returned fire with 32 bullets.
911 operator Harris, where is your emergency?
I don't know what happened. Somebody kicked in the door inside my girlfriend.
The thing that stood out to me when I was talking to him, he said, why would I call 911 if I thought it was the police?
That resonated with me because he didn't know who it was that was coming in. You know, he had no idea. You could hear the distress. Everything about what he said was believable. It made sense all the way through.
You found him credible?
Yes.
Totally believable.
Did you find the police credible?
No.
No, there are too many inconsistencies in their story. Now I understand that, you know, in a situation like that, you may not remember, but I didn't find their testimony credible.
What was your understanding about what happened that night?
It was a mess. It didn't seem to me that there was any organization or almost any leadership in the whole operation.
From the evidence that I heard, this thing started out downhill to begin with. You don't need 7 cops to go up to somebody's door and knock on it and say, you know, we're here to do an investigation at 1 o'clock in the morning. It kept going downhill from there. It was one mistake right after the other, right after the other. They covered it up. That's what the evidence that I saw. And I felt like there should have been lots more charges on that. They covered it up.
Now, later this morning, former Louisville officer Brett Hankinson is scheduled to be in court for a pretrial hearing on the wanton endangerment charges that he's facing. We did, by the way, reach out to Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. He did not give us a new statement, but last month he did tell a local Fox affiliate if the jurors had wanted to make an assessment about different charges, they could have done that. The jurors, as you see, disagree with that.
They didn't get that aware of it, yeah.
I mean, juror number 1 is white, juror number 2 is black, and it was juror number 1 who was so upset that reached out to attorney Kevin Glogauer because he said, I don't know what to do with this. This is so frustrating.
Well, you can understand why they were livid at the Attorney General's comment.
Yeah, they were being told that they went along with something that they clearly did not.
And that's what upset them. And it took them, they said, a minute, under 2 minutes to deliberate on the charges because all they had to consider were the wanton endangerment. We'll talk more with them at 8 o'clock about the toll that it's taken.
But you can obviously, this is just 2 members of the grand jury, we should say, but they had a very different conclusion than.
But Anthony, I did ask, do you think other jurors feel this way? They said, look, we can't speak for other jurors, but there was an uproar in the room that everybody was unanimous in their anger about the decision.
But, well, we don't presume to speak for those other jurors either, but it's very clear these jurors were not represented in what the Attorney General said.
Very interesting. Incredible interview.
Black World TV, the new black media, black by popular demand. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So this video that you just saw by CBS News featuring Gayle King, she still doesn't get a pass for all the anti-black rhetoric and antics that she's pulled towards black people the past several years. So we're not giving her a pass. However, we're going to give her some credit for at least running this Breonna Taylor grand jury interview where she interviews 2 grand jurors who were highly upset about the deception of Daniel Scameroon, the Attorney General of Kentucky. It looks like, hopefully, if justice prevails, Daniel Cameron will be indicted for obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, perjury, corruption, and disobeying his professional oath. Hopefully, several or all of those charges are held against him for the injustice that he has caused in the Breonna Taylor case, with and in conjunction with the Kentucky or Louisville Metro Police Department. They all gotta go. They all are guilty. And as you see, and I wanted to take a snapshot of the actual headline where it reads, Breonna Taylor grand juror claims there was enough evidence for homicide charges. Police covered their mistakes. Black America, the original people of the planet Earth, we've been brainwashed into calling ourselves several different names. So with that, you know exactly who I'm talking to. We already knew this. It's only the people without color who has pushed this false narrative and have backed the police, who we've known time after time through so much evidence that they lie. Once again, the truth has come out because evil will never prevail. Let me repeat that. Evil will never prevail. And so, once again, the truth has been exposed. Daniel Cameron, as well as the Louisville Metro Police, they're all guilty of the injustice of Breonna Taylor. Let's see how this plays out with the Department of Justice. Let's see how this plays out with the righteous people of the earth. Are we going to do the right thing and make sure that this gets corrected? I hope so. You tell me what you think in the comments section. This is Black World TV, the new black media. Black by popular demand.